Hi, hope you guys are doing good. Let me fix this screen just a bit. Okay, that feels better. I hope it looks better. Hi, everybody. I'm Soleil. I am your weekly reader. I am the founder and facilitator of the Charm School Voodoo Mentorship Program. I am a certified life coach, and I'm a dope bitch straight up out of Oakland. Hello, hello, hello. Come on in the room and get settled. Um, Tonight we are doing a segment of Happy Hour. Happy Hour is where we come together somewhat close to the end of the week and we just kind of debrief, shoot the shit, share drinks or libations. If you guys are drinking, let me know what you're sipping on. And we talk about whatever's going on in pop culture. We talk about the zeitgeist. Obviously, tonight we're going to talk about Miss Dolly P. I'm playing one of my favorite collaborations from her right now in the background, which is her song Creeping In with her and Nora Jones. If you're not familiar with it, get familiar with it. It's absolutely adorable. But yeah, we lost a legend this week. We lost an icon. We lost someone who meant a lot to many people. And I think it's actually kind of comical how people are responding to the fact that the Black community is hurt by Dolly's passing. But I don't want to just talk about that in terms of racial politics. I want to talk about what we can learn from Dolly in terms of legacy, right? What does it mean to leave behind a legacy? What does it mean to leave behind a legacy that's rooted in authenticity? And what we need to consider in terms of whether or not we want to be seen as a community ancestor, right? Dolly, once her soul has made its proper transition, I think we are going to have an amazing community ancestor out of her because of the way that she lived her life. And you guys know that community ancestors is a topic that I teach about. And I train my students, I train my godchildren on how to work with community ancestors the proper way. And not everybody who dies leaves behind a legacy or an energy that can make them a good community ancestor, right? So I want to talk about Dolly because I'm a firm believer that ages, let's say 15, right? When you're a teenager, right? 15 until about 35, your concern is to worry about what kind of an elder you're going to be, right? Once you hit 35 and after, you need to start thinking about what kind of ancestor you're going to be. And I know that may sound morbid, but again, I practice Vodou, and our connection and our relationship with death is not typical. Let me rephrase that. I practice a religion, and there are many religions in the world who actually move this way and believe this, but I don't see death as an ending. I see it as a transition into a new chapter, right? And I think a lot of people don't stop and think about, okay, what is the legacy I want to leave behind? What kind of ancestor do I want to be to my lineage, to my family? And if you are blessed to leave an impact on your community, to my community, right? I have community ancestors, former mentors, teachers, folks in my community that show up just as powerfully for me, if not honestly a little bit more powerfully than some of my bloodline, right? So I think thinking about those things is extremely important. It's not enough to be hyper-focused on what you accumulate in this lifetime. You got to think about how are people going to remember you and what are people going to do with that memory, right? What is happening in your name after you're gone? And I think that even though it's sad that we lost Miss Dolly, 80 years is a long time to live, but you know, there are people that are blessed to live longer. And I only learned today that she passed of cancer. That's not an easy way to go. I don't wish that for anybody, you know. But at least she gets to be with her ancestors. At least she gets to be with her husband. At least she gets to be with God now. And again, she lived a beautiful life. And I want to talk about her in the context of what it means to leave behind an authentic legacy. I have some notes Let me pull up my notes. Before I get into the notes, I want to say hi to the people that are in the room. Hey, Adelaida. Hey, Dulcinea. If anyone else is here, say hey so I can say hi back. Talk to me, I talk back. I love for the space to be interactive, okay? As you come into the room, introduce yourself. Also, if you're sipping on anything tonight, let me know what it is you're sipping on because I am nosy. I'm not drinking any alcohol, but I do have my kombucha with the good ice from Chick-fil-A. Yes, I go to Chick-fil-A to get ice. I go to Chick-fil-A and I buy bags of ice. They have good ice. I don't know what to tell you. Um, and for you youngins, once you get into your 40s, you're going to know the importance of having good ice. Good ice matters. Okay? But let me pull up my notes because I do have some points that I want to go over. So as I mentioned, like legacy is more than what you've accumulated, right? It's so much more than physical buildings that you build or the things that you've won in your lifetime. Um, and I think we live in such a capitalist society that we only think about legacy in terms of money and tangibles, right? It can be really easy to get wrapped up in this really base level understanding of legacy. But legacy should be about what's happening because you lived, right? What are the opportunities you create for other people in your absence? What are the ways of loving and thinking and of building that people engage in because you shifted their life? You shifted their patterns of thinking, their patterns of showing up in community in ways that are very, very concrete and deliberate, right? Those are all things we should be thinking about. And again, I think that because Dolly was so loved by so many people and she touched the lives of so many people, she's going to become a really powerful community ancestor. Absolutely. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the concept of a community ancestor, it's simple and it's complex at the same time. But in its most simplistic definition, a community ancestor is someone whose life has become part of the collective wisdom, the collective memory, and the collective knowledge of a community, right? So as opposed to a traditional ancestor that you share literal blood with, a bloodline ancestor, a community ancestor is somebody who's left such a big impact, such a big legacy on community that people carry on their legacy, right? And Dolly is definitely one of those people, right? Future generations are going to be able to say that she taught them something. Even if it's as simple as the lyrics to her song, right? Dolly wrote some hits. Everybody know I Will Always Love You. Everybody knows 9 to 5, right? And even if you're not familiar with the song I was playing when I started the live stream, she's worked with and collaborated with so many different artists from so many generations, but even beyond that, right? Her imagination library, her being honest about the fact that, I have a father who's one of the most brilliant men in the world, but he could not share his brilliance with other people because he was functionally illiterate, right? And her growing up in Appalachia and seeing the impact of functional illiteracy on a community and her actively creating a program that gives free books to children so that they can sharpen their knowledge of reading is really, really important, right? That's legacy. That's impact. That's somebody saying, hey, I see something in my community and I know my community deserves better. And I'm going to not only leave an impact on it, but I'm going to leave something behind that can push forward, right? Jamaica in a wine glass, Jamaica in a wine glass. Oh, I miss good Jamaica. I miss a good Jamaica. I'm going to try to make some this weekend. The last time I had good Jamaica, I had to make it on my own. So I'm going to go to the market and get myself some hibiscus and make myself some. I am puffing on some Orange Julius and sipping H2O. Yeah, that sounds delicious. That sounds delicious. Again, it is happy hour. Share what you're drinking as you come into the room, even if it is just water. That's okay. That's cool. Again, I'm drinking my kombucha with the good ice. So yeah, not only did she teach us something, she made something possible. She made things possible for certain communities that may not have existed, right? She changed the way we thought, and she changed the way that people thought in communities that may not have had certain conversations. There are people that are today years old that are just learning that Dolly Parton wrote country songs about immigrant rights, right? There are people that are today years old that are understanding just how political the movie 9 to 5 was, and that it was based on an actual workers' union, right? Um, that's impact. That's forcing people through pop culture to learn major historical, socio-political lessons that they probably wouldn't grapple with otherwise, right? She left things behind that are useful. Again, the Imagination Library, her foundations, her charities, the amount of giving that she did. Dolly is one of the few people in the world that could have been a millionaire and opted out of it. So what does that say about her character? Not a millionaire, a billionaire. She could have been a billionaire easily, and multiple times in her lifetime rejected the opportunity to be a billionaire because she knew that her resources, her connections, and her gifts were more important for the community, right? It's a lot of people out there that won't sacrifice $5 for the community. And she sacrificed billionaire status for the community, right? Her value still has influence over how we move, and it will continue to have influence over how we move, how we think for generations. I've seen multiple business owners, I've seen multiple women, female business owners get on the internet in the last few days in tears and citing Dolly as the reason that they do business the way that they do, right? The reason why they made it a point to educate themselves so that they did not have to depend on men, right? Setting themselves up for legacy even though they didn't have children themselves or want to birth children. Even that's a big deal, right? We live in a society that makes women believe that their only capacity, their primary function is to push out a baby. And even though Dolly never had her own children, she was mother and auntie to many. That is beautiful. That woman has touched the world in ways that are going to outlive her. People can say for decades, but I think we'll be talking about Dolly a century from now. I really, really... Venus! Hi, Venus! Oh, my dear friend. Oh, I miss you so much, girl. I've been so out of it. I miss you down, Venus. I know you... As an extra Venusian woman, I know Dolly's passing had to have had an impact on you. I love me some Dolly. My grandma did too. I know she did. I know it. That's why we're friends. We love a woman that has dedicated her life to being extra and sparkly and giving. And it only makes sense that you were impacted by this. I love that. I love that. So think about the people you consider as community ancestors, right? And I'm going to get through this without crying. Think about the people in your life who were not a part of your bloodline, but because of what they did in community and because of the ways that it had direct impact over your life, that you want to honor through how you show up in the world, through how you engage with spirit, all of that, right? Love her, and she was a fellow Virgo rising myself. Oh, that makes sense. It makes sense that Dolly was a Virgo rising. I should have looked up her chart before I got on here. I didn't even think to do that, but that absolutely makes sense. That she was a Virgo rising, just with how the perfection and the precision with how she structured her career. Absolutely makes a ton of sense. So let's talk about what authenticity is, right? Because I think authenticity, just very much like accountability, is a word that we use quite a bit in our society, but we misuse it. We don't understand the real meaning of it, right? Authenticity is not simply just being unfiltered, right? I think people get, I'm thinking of the Dave Chappelle skit when he's like, when keeping it real goes wrong, right? I think people think that authenticity is keeping it real or being unfiltered, or to some degree, even people think it may be being vulgar, and authenticity has not a damn thing to do with vulgarity, right? Authenticity is about being unapologetically who you are, right? It's not the same thing as being radically transparent, which is another thing that is beautiful, but it's not an obligation of everybody, right? Authenticity is being unmistakably who you are, unmistakably yourself. And Dolly was unmistakably herself. I have a very sharp memory of being a little girl. I was about 5. And it was my first time seeing Dolly on TV. And I thought she was Barbie. And I called her Barbie. And my mama just died laughing. And I was sitting there staring at her thinking, what the fuck? But in my little girl mind, Dolly looked like a Barbie doll. The big hair, the frilly dresses, the sequins. And you got to remember, I'm an 80s baby. I was born in the 80s. So when you look at the Barbie dolls of the 80s, they were all sequenced out with big hair and big titties and all this stuff. So I saw this woman and I thought she was Barbie, right? But Dolly was unapologetically who she is, right? Unmistakably herself. You don't confuse Dolly with anybody else. When it's the hair, the humor, her voice, she has a very distinctive voice. She sounds like a toy or a doll, right? And even when it comes to her songwriting, you can hear a Dolly song. You know a Dolly song when you hear it, right? Her femininity, how unapologetic she was in her femininity. I don't know how many of you guys have seen the clip that's been going around for the last few days where somebody asks her, have you ever wished that you were born a man? And she said, no, because in my heart, I'm a sissy. So if I was born a man, I would have absolutely just been a drag queen, right? Her femininity, how she showed up in it, and how she was unapologetic about it, how there was nothing anybody could ever do to make her come out of her feminine. All of those things are so unmistakably and authentically her, right? Her authenticity was not about sharing every private detail of her life. It wasn't about her oversharing and giving people access to her personal business, right? That's what I mean when I say authenticity is not the same as radical transparency, right? You can absolutely be authentic and still maintain your boundaries. I think in this social media era, in this post-reality TV era, we think that people, hearing our business when we go to the bathroom is authenticity. No, that's oversharing, right? And people confuse the two, right? But authentic living is much more about oversharing. It's knowing who you are, saying who you are being in alignment with how you behave, and who you are and how you behave being reflected in what you build and what you leave behind. That's authenticity. That is authenticity. Is who you are and how you behave the same as what you claim to stand for, right? I think about somebody like Kanye. Kanye has broken a lot of hearts because we wanted to believe in him so bad. And a part of why people have lost faith and fallen out of love with him is because everything he claimed to be when he first came into our sight is out of authenticity with what he has shown us in the world, right? Whereas you have somebody like Dolly who she says she is in alignment with how she behaves, reflected in what she's built, and also reflected in everything she stands for, right? I know I keep repeating Dolly clips, but I've just been in a rabbit hole since her passing because I can't believe she's gone. But there's a clip of her going around and saying, of course, Black lives matter. You think our white asses are the only ones that matter, right? Authentically herself, unapologetically herself, loving to everybody. It wasn't enough for her to claim Christianity. I'm not going to cry. I am not going to cry. Christianity and Christ consciousness showed up in how she loved other people and in how she fought for other people. And that's why people, even folks who are atheists, are talking about the place that Dolly's going to have in heaven. Because who she was showed up in her behavior. It showed up in what she stood for and what she left behind, right? That is something we should all strive for. That is something that if people can remember us that way, is a blessing in the lives that we live and the memories we leave behind and our legacy, right? Oh God, I thought I was going to get through this one tonight. Oh, I hate being, I hate being Venusian. Oh, I'm not going to mess up this makeup. So that's a question for us to ask ourselves, right? Especially those of us who are on our second half of our life. Again, not trying to be morbid, but if you are post 35, before 35, you think about what kind of elder you want to be. After 35, you think about the kind of ancestor you're going to become. And so that's something we need to be thinking about, right? Are we actually living authentically, or have we created a version of ourselves that's going to get us the most approval? Because it's not about approval. Everybody didn't approve of Dolly. Do you think that everybody approved of this gorgeous woman with titties popping out her turtleneck and this soft baby voice? No. People were probably wanted to discount her time and time and time again. But she didn't do what she did for approval. She did it because it is saying to her heart. It was in alignment with her relationship to God and her commitment to the communities around her, right? So I think that's the first part, the first lesson we can learn from Dolly P. But the second lesson we can learn from her is about not abandoning our roots to prove that we've evolved. I think that's a thing that we can do very easily. She has a Virgo moon too. Oh, shout out to the Virgo moons. I have a Virgo moon. I love it. I think that is one of the failures that we have, that capitalism has taught us, right? Part of the American dream is to get successful enough to abandon. We don't talk about it that way. But think, what is the American dream? Accumulate enough to get a nice big house in the suburbs or a nice neighborhood that is not the one you grew up in. That's abandonment. That's abandonment, right? And you don't have to abandon your roots. You don't have to abandon what you come from in order to elevate and evolve. You don't. Dolly became enormously successful and never once pretended that she wasn't from Tennessee, never once pretended that she wasn't from Appalachia. And the kind of poverty and difficulty that exists in Appalachia, it's not a whole bunch of people clamoring to claim that, right? She didn't have to erase the parts of herself that came from poverty. She didn't have to erase her family, her Appalachian rural Southern roots. She didn't have to abandon any of that to be successful. People loved her with it. They loved her because of it, right? And her story raises a really, really important question for all of us to sit with, which is, why do we sometimes believe that success requires distance from ourselves or from what we come from? Where did we inherit that false belief? And how does that false belief could low-key be blocking some of your success and blocking some of your blessings? Because if you're ashamed of what you come from, how can you fully claim to love your ancestors? I'm going to repeat, if you are ashamed of what you've come from, how can you fully claim to love your ancestors? Okay? There's a difference between evolving and rejecting. And you can evolve without rejecting what you've come from. You can become sophisticated without disconnection, right? So what are the parts of yourself that you have hidden because you thought they weren't impressive enough, or they were going to put distance between you and the people you were trying to get approval from? What did you have to unlearn or force yourself to unlearn because you thought that if you kept that knowledge, it was somehow going to impede your success? Those are important questions to ask ourselves. Are we trying to look successful instead of actually becoming successful in a way that is authentic, right? In a way that is rooted in our history and our wisdom. That's important to think about. When we treat our roots like limitations, that is a form of shame. And shame cannot exist in ancestral love and veneration. It can't. It cannot. They can become a form of raw material that actually gives us wisdom, knowledge, and power. But we don't have to have shame around our roots. That's not helpful. It's not healthy, right? There's a third lesson that I think we can learn from Dolly, and that's that we can turn our pain into something useful, right? You guys hear me talk about, and you guys are probably sick of me saying it, like, Priestess, we know, you got your start in financial trauma recovery. We know. But I think it's important for me to talk about, because that was me taking my pain. That was me taking something, a negative experience in my life, and turning it into wisdom that I was able to use to help people in my community, right? So rather than running from our pain and being shamed by it, we can turn it into something useful, okay? And this is where authenticity spills into purpose. Come on, somebody. I know somebody needed to hear that. This is where authenticity helps you stand in your purpose, okay? Her upbringing wasn't something that she escaped from. It wasn't something that she ran from. As I mentioned earlier, her father's inability to read wasn't something that she allowed herself to be shamed by. She literally turned it into a resource for the world, for the community. And that's why she founded the Imagination Library in 1995. And there are children still to this day getting books from the Imagination Library. Right? She turned her pain, she turned the difficulty in her family, which is lack of education, into something that she could bless other people with, right? Are you using your pain as something to wallow, as something to give you an excuse to hide from the world? Or are you transforming it into something that allows you to help and heal other people? That's purpose. That is purpose, right? She didn't simply survive her circumstances. She converted what she learned from them into something that other people could use, okay? So that's legacy. When you can have your story become something that not only you can benefit from, but that you can learn from and help other people learn from, that is legacy, okay? And we may not have had a functionally illiterate father, right? Our thing to bear may be something different. You maybe have survived poverty, could have survived divorce, massive career change, grief, rejection, family dysfunction, financial hardship, being underestimated. I know a lot of us can relate to that, right? Being seen as an underdog when you're really a big dog, right? It could be loneliness. It can be anything. Whatever the difficulty is you survived, if you can find a way to turn it into purpose, wisdom, and knowledge that is meant to help other people, that is legacy, okay? So again, and I know I ask a lot of questions, but I ask, again, Virgo moon, I ask myself a lot of questions regularly, right? So I hope it's okay that I'm asking you guys so many questions. But what did the experience teach you that could make somebody else's road easier? Every point of pain has a lesson behind it. 3 of Swords. And our purpose is to learn the lesson from our pain so that we can move forward with it in maturation. And a part of maturation, a part of becoming an elder, is having wisdom that you can use for the people around you. So what did you learn from your pain? And how can you turn that into wisdom and information for other people, right? This is not about how can I make my trauma inspirational. That's not this. I'm not encouraging people to develop trauma porn. We have enough of that in our world. We don't need no more, right? This is more about what wisdom did I earn that I can put into service. How are you using your wisdom and putting it into service? That's purpose, okay? I have 2 more lessons and then we'll wrap up. We'll take some time for readings. I do have a hard out. I got to be out of here by 9:30. I still got clients that I got to see. This energy leading up to this eclipse that's about to take place in a couple hours has been a lot, and y'all are going through it, okay? So, but I do have 2 more lessons I want to get through tonight because, again, Dolly has given us a lot. She has given us a lot. And, you know, it's one thing to get wrapped up in the songs and the memes, but what are we learning from her? Especially since she's going to be a community ancestor now, right? 4th lesson I want to get to, legacy requires more than talent. Legacy requires more than talent. Legacy requires stewardship. Legacy requires stewardship. If you guys were in my class about prosperity and protection this week, we've talked a lot already about stewardship. So we know what stewardship is at this point, okay? Obviously, Dolly was talented. She was talented. She was beautiful. Beauty can take people a long way in this world, right? So that combination of beauty and talent was a lot. But it was not her talent alone that helped her maintain a legacy. Talent can get you attention, but it's stewardship that creates impact, okay? It's stewardship that creates longevity, okay? Legacy is about doing what continues to matter, leaving an impact that continues to matter, right? It's more than just doing something impressive once. It's a lot of people that can do something impressive once. You'll never remember them. You'll never remember their name, right? You can make a lot of money and leave nothing behind. You can have millions of followers and have no meaningful impact over anybody. I watch, I don't know why this is the example that came to my mind. If you guys know what Tiny Kitchen is, those little videos where people are making like doll-sized food, I watch those a lot because they calm me down. That's not legacy. Nobody's going to remember that shit. Like, nobody even knows who the hands are, who the person is that owns the hands that's doing it, right? So I'm saying that to say you can have a lot of attention on you, and that's not the same thing as legacy. Dolly is remembered because of her philanthropic work, right? She was able to build something that even in her absence is going to continue to serve people, right? Her imagination library isn't just a donation. It's a structure that continues to educate children, right? Legacy is what happens when your values become bigger than your personality. So stewardship, how are you managing? How are you creating increase? How are you nurturing the gifts that talent, attention, and beauty have brought you to create something that spills over and becomes bigger than you, right? And then the final lesson, and I think this is a really important one, especially for those of us who do any kind of community work, whether we're in the mental health field, whether we are spiritualists or healers, whether we're teachers, right? Anything that has us in community on a constant basis. And it's a really important one. You don't have to be everything to everybody. I'm going to repeat that again. You don't have to be everything for everybody. Right? I don't know what kind of communities you grew up in, but in my community in East Oakland, where we would say that somebody is for everybody, that's not a good thing. That's actually a warning, right? Because people who are for everybody, that's inauthenticity personified. Because you can't be for everybody. You got to stand for something, and as soon as you stand for something, you're going to isolate certain people. You do not have to be for everybody. You don't have to be everything for everybody, right? Dolly didn't become who she was by trying to please everyone on the planet. She found her lane. She nurtured her lane. Some would even go as far as to say she carved out her own lane, right? She found her lane and she stuck with it and became extremely good at being herself. And anytime you are good at being yourself, you are going to piss somebody off. You are going to turn somebody off, right? That's just a reality. So, what would happen if you stopped trying to be universally impressive and just concentrated on being deeply useful? What would happen if you stopped focusing on being liked and focused on being who you truly are and connecting with like-minded souls? What would that open up for you in terms of opportunity, in terms of clarity in your direction, in your purpose, right? We live in a society where we are constantly being encouraged to chase every trend. We're encouraged to chase every trend. Depending on what city you live in, you may run into people that instead of asking for your name, or if they want to connect with you, asking for your phone number or your email like a healthy person, they may actually ask for your Instagram or your TikTok. We judge people by follower counts, which is fucking crazy, right? We live in a world where people think you got to reinvent yourself every 6 months. One moment is the clean girl aesthetic, the next moment is dark academia. The fuck? Right? We spend a lot of time figuring out how to imitate other people, imitate aesthetics, imitate success, instead of defining what success means for us individually. We live in the world of the constant rebrand. Not only is that exhausting, but it can create a dynamic where you forget who you even are, which is not healthy. It's not good. Legacy requires consistency. The same Dolly you got in the 70s is the same Dolly you got in the 2020s. Right? Consistently who you are. I've only had the experience recently of somebody saying that I've never changed and meaning that as a bad thing. No. I've gotten a little older and a little meaner, but the same Larissa you experienced in the 2000s is the same Larissa you get now. Consistency is what builds a legacy. And if you're chasing the rebrand, if you're chasing the trend, if you're a new person every 6 months, how can you build a legacy? Right? You have to give something enough time to actually grow. So again, what is the thing you could keep doing for the next 20 years of your life, unapologetically? What are the morals, the investments, the things that you care about that you can give your attention to for years, if not decades? That's what you should focus on. That's your legacy, right? So I want to end again. I talked a little bit in the beginning about community ancestors. And again, I've taught classes on this. This is something that I teach my students about because it's such an important concept. And I do want to talk a little bit more about community ancestors because I think some of us who are watching maybe for the first time or have never taken a class with me, you may not be familiar with the concept, right? A community ancestor is someone whose life, even though they are not genetically related to you, right? After their death, their life continues to provide wisdom that helps people learn from the ways that they've lived. Their lives created infrastructure, right? They built something that continues to help people. Their memory is kept alive through stories, through songs, through their impact. Their values and their principles have become a part of the culture. And also, finally, and this is the one that I think is the most important, something about all those things, the wisdom that they left behind, the infrastructure, everything, I'm not gonna cry, gives people who carry their memory possibility. It gives people possibility. So someone else can see themselves as possible because that community ancestor existed, right? That's why I mentioned all the Black women that I've seen who've gotten online and said, I went into business for myself because of Dolly. I structure my business and and that's why I'm so glad that Venus is here tonight, because like when I think about the cosmetic brands and the healing products that she is creating and the things that she's making as a part of her legacy, that's related to Dolly's work and Dolly's influence in a really particular way. Whether, Venus, we never talked about it, whether you knew it or not, I see you as a part of that legacy. When I see people like King Ashley Ann, I see them as a part of Dolly's legacy, right? But the way that they lived and the impact that they gave gives possibility to other people, right? And I think Dolly had the ingredients of an extraordinary community ancestor because her legacy isn't just a bunch of songs. The songs are good. She had some slaps, okay? But it's the possibilities that she created for other people who never had the blessing of meeting her. She created possibility for people who've never breathed the same air as her. And that's impact. That is what makes a community ancestor, right? So again, as we close out, I want to repeat what I said. Pre-35, up until we get to around age 35, we need to be thinking about the type of elder that we want to become. 35 and older, we need to start thinking about the ancestors we want to be, right? I think that's really, really important. What is the legacy we're leaving behind? How do we want people to hold our memory? How do we want people to honor the life we live through the work that they do, right? You don't have to wait until you're old to start thinking about these things. In fact, the younger you start thinking about it, the more it shapes your patterns and your behaviors, because it's patterns that make a person, right? So thinking about what will people remember you? How will they remember about how you made them feel, right? Who's better off because I existed? What am I teaching people without realizing that I'm even teaching them? Those are all really important things, right? What do I want my name to mean when I'm no longer here to explain myself? That's legacy. How do people remember and talk about you once you're gone? So important, right? If somebody told the story of you from 100 years from now, what would their lesson be? What would be the point of hope that they get from how you lived? That's legacy, right? Legacy isn't something you sit down and create when you're 70. You're creating it every day through your actions. Every child you encourage, every person you lift up, every environment you leave impact on, every structure you build, that's your legacy. So those are things we really need to be thinking about. And maybe the real lesson of the life that Dolly lived is not about becoming famous, but about becoming useful without abandoning who you are, right? How can you be useful? How can you have purpose without abandoning yourself? I think that's her legacy. I think that's a part of her impact that I think that's really important. So I'm gonna wrap up there because again, I didn't expect myself to cry multiple times during this live stream. I'm a little embarrassed. You guys know I'm sensitive. But I think that's something that's really important for us to think about. I think it's really important for us to think about, and I also think it's important for us to think about not just for ourselves, but for the community ancestors we build on and work with, right? In our own practices. So that's pretty much it. That's what I wanted to share with you guys tonight. I do have a reading for those of you who want to know like what your legacy is and what you can do to kind of prepare your legacy. We can do it if you want it. It's here, if you want it. but I don't want to force it. But I do also want to keep the conversation going. If people have questions, or if you were a Dolly fan, what did you love about Dolly? What did you have elders in your life that loved Dolly? How will you remember Dolly? Those are all things we could talk about as well. But yeah, I'll go over the reading in case anybody wants it. Um, it's the authentic legacy spread. So first question is, who are you? Second question is, what do you give? And the third question is, what remains, right? So if you guys want the authentic legacy spread, I'm happy to do it for you. If not, we don't have to. Why are you laughing at me, Dulcinea? I don't know what I did. Tell me what you laughing at. Take us, Venus says, take us to church. I wasn't trying to, but if I did, then I hope what I talked about tonight touched whoever needed to hear it, whoever it did touch. Nicole, you like the reading? Okay, I got you. I'll do the reading for you. I'm going to start with Nicole. Before I go into Nicole, I just want to remind people that we have the next chapter workshop this Sunday. So if you haven't already signed up, if you are interested in joining us for the workshop on Sunday, it's a workshop where I'm helping people plan out major life transformations. And that may sound like, girl, how you gonna do that in one workshop? Let me explain. It's specifically for people who, if you have certain areas of your life where you feel stuck, you feel like you're repeating certain patterns, and not only do you want to break those patterns, but you really want to transition yourself, or position yourself rather, to use the final quarter, to use the final 90 days of 2026 to bring major transformation so you can leave those patterns or areas where you feel stuck in 2026 before 2027 rolls around. Okay. Based on my own life coaching training, I believe that you can change your life drastically in 90 days. And so in this workshop, I'm going to help people figure out what is keeping them stuck, figure out how to release it, and to come up with a framework, a personal framework that will allow them to create transformation, massive transformation in their life in 90 days. So if you're interested in learning more about the next chapter workshop, or joining us if you have not already signed up, go ahead and click the link in the comments. A lot of you who are already in my group, Sacred Roots, you know about the flash sale that is exclusive to the Facebook group, but I'm also offering a few exclusive readings for the public as well in honor of the lunar eclipse. So both my shadow work consultations and my gold and shadow readings, which are my financial health readings, are on sale for $75. They will be on sale for $75 until Sunday. So from now until Sunday, both of those readings, which are originally $125, will be available for $75. Okay, so that is the eclipse offer for the public. Again, if you're not a part of Sacred Roots, I don't know why you aren't, but you should join my Sacred Roots Facebook group. Not only do I give exclusive flash sales that are criminally low, like very, very accessible, but I give tarot lessons. We have shadow work conversations and discussions. And a lot of times when I'm doing exclusive free classes, Sacred Roots is the only place where I advertise them. So join the Sacred Roots group. The link is in the comments. Okay, a couple of you guys want a reading. Blessings to you all. I'll get through to you in order. We're going to start with Nicole, then Adelaida, then Dulcinea, and then if there's anyone after Dulcinea, I'll do them next, okay? But we're going to start with Nicole first. I know I've been using the Gen Z tarot a lot, but I need to take a break from it. This is going to sound real old. It's too busy. It's a good deck, but it's too busy. It's too video game. It's too loud in colors. So I'm going to go to Afro Anime tonight. I know I use Afro Anime a lot, but between that and Tarot of the Divine, I get what I need from those decks. So, Nicole, you are up. Let me highlight your comments so I can remember who I'm talking to, because y'all know my memory is trash. Ancestors, angels, ascended master spirits that walk with me. What does Nicole need to know about her authentic legacy? Who is she? What is she creating? And how will she be remembered? Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. So in position 1, which is the authentic self, which talks about what part of yourself are you being called to fully embrace. I love this for you. We have the 8 of Wands. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. It's also the card of the Phoenix rising from the ashes. You have had multiple transformations in your life, and you are somebody who is deeply resilient. And I don't even know if resilient doesn't even give you justice, right? Because it's not even just that you bounce back, you come back stronger. Again, the Phoenix rising from the ashes, right? Every time you reinvent yourself, every time you are able to adapt into a new environment or into a new situation, you thrive and you burn brighter. You come out more light, more powerful. And that is something that your spirits would really, really love for you to continue to see in yourself, as well as to embrace fully, right? In the position of the offering, which is the thing you have within you that can be put into service for others, you have a lot of wisdom around how to step into new journeys, and specifically around what it looks like to travel, what it looks like to navigate the world, what it looks like to move around and to start over, right? You have a lot of wisdom around that. And that's something that your spirits would really love for you to put into service for others, right? In terms of legacy, what do you have the potential to leave behind that continues beyond you? I love that this is the card in this position, the King of Wands, right? I always say that the King of Wands, his charisma allows him to enroll other people into his vision. People want to see him win. They contribute to his efforts because they believe in him, right? And this is something that the more you work on this in yourself, the more it's something that you can leave behind to other people, right? That yes, confidence is good and confidence is important, but how does your confidence translate into motivating other people to take action, motivating other people to come together to collectively execute something, right? That's a huge part of your legacy and something that you need to leave behind. I think it's interesting how much these two cards speak together for you. And I would love for us to have further conversations about what that looks like for you, Nicole. But let me know if that resonated with you. Let me know if that was helpful. I'm just learning about all her good work. Did not grow up listening to her in my Mexican immigrant household, so kind of sad. I'm just learning. We listened to Dolly in my Southern household, even though I grew up in California. I think a lot of people, I grew up in East Oakland, but I was the first generation. I'm first generation outside of the South, if that makes sense. So even though I moved back to the South, this is a return for me. My family, we listened to Dolly, we listened to Johnny Cash, we listened to a lot of that stuff growing up. But I'll do your reading next, Dulcinea. If there's anyone else that would like a reading, go ahead and put yourself in the queue by submitting your love offering and leaving a comment. All right. Ancestors, angels, ascended master spirits to walk with me. What does Dulcinea need to learn about her authentic self? What is the legacy she's meant to leave behind? And how does the life she lived impact that legacy? And you with some shares, deeply appreciated. Okay. Two of these cards were stuck together, so I'm going to read them together. Okay. Um, and here's the thing, don't get worked up by the first card because it's actually a really powerful message. Okay. So in the position, Dulcinea, of the first card, what part, the authentic self, what part of yourself are you being called to embrace fully? We have the Tower, right? Um, and here's the thing. This is why I'm saying don't get worked up, because everybody gives the Tower so much grief. And the Tower is not an inherently negative card. It's really not. A part of your authentic self is that you clear the room. You're going to clear away the bullshit. Your energy clears away bullshit. And I think that that can be a really heavy energy to carry as a woman, especially a Virgo woman. But there's a lot of power in that, right? You carry an energy of revelation. And I know a lot of Virgos who move that way. I know a lot of earth signs who move that way, right? We just be saying and doing the uncomfortable shit. And then other people are like, oh my God. And we're like, what? You know what I mean? You have an energy of revelation to you, right? Hence why I'm a loner in some of these rooms. Well, fuck those people because they're weak. As somebody who also carries the energy of revelation, you don't need weak bitches around you. You don't need it. It's totally fine. But yeah, you carry an energy of revelation. You, for better or for worse, reveal things to people that makes them have to make major decisions about how they move forward. Are they going to wilt and fall apart, or are they going to buck up and figure out who they need to be and what they need to be in the face of the revelation, right? In the energy of the offering, which is what do you have within you that can be put into service for others? I'm going to read these cards together because they're beautiful. We have the King of Wands and we have the Ten of Pentacles, right? The more you stand in your authentic power and allow the people who aren't afraid of the revelation, right, to really believe in you and to invest in your vision, not only the more does that bring you personal confidence, but it heals certain things in your legacy. Ten of Pentacles is the card of generational wealth. It's also the card of generational healing, the breaking of generational curses, right? There are ways that a lot of women before you did not get to take up this kind of space. I'm going to repeat that. There are ways that a lot of the women before you did not get the privilege. You're seeing this as a burden. A lot of the women before you didn't get the privilege to show up in this way. So not only is this something that heals you and gives you personal strength, you literally teach the babies that come after you how to stand in that kind of power, right? The legacy. What do you have the potential to leave behind that continues beyond you? And I think this is great. Five of Cups in reverse. Again, being that energy of revelation also challenges you to be somebody who focuses on what is still full instead of wasting a whole bunch of time crying over spilled milk. You show people what it looks like to move forward, to build after difficulty. You give people an understanding of personal power that allows them to be grateful for what remains instead of wasting time over what was spilt or what other people didn't value, right? I love that for you. I personally love that for you. As somebody who knows you, that makes me really happy. I think that's beautiful. I think that's really beautiful. I hope that was helpful for you, my heart. Okay. I'm going to take that as that resonated for you. That's what I'm going to believe that resonated for you. You are very welcome, and thank you for trusting me. Thank you for allowing me to read for you. I'm gonna do Adelaida. If there's no one else that wants a authentic legacy reading, we're gonna wrap up with Adelaida for the night. Um, and that's fine with me because I do have a reading at 9:30. But if there's anyone else, I can maybe do one or two more people after Adelaida. If there is anyone else that would like a reading, go ahead and submit your love offering and put your comment down so I can get to you after her. If not, we will wrap up with Adelaida for the night. Adelaida, say something in the chat so that I know you're still with me. I'm going to go ahead and start your reading now, okay? Ancestors, angels, city masters, spirits who walk with me. My most elevated ancestors, what wisdom does Adelaida need to know about her legacy? How does her authenticity pour into the legacy that she leaves behind? Any wisdom shared is deeply appreciated. So today's simmer pot has a few blackberries in it, just because I had some blackberries in my fridge that were on their last limb. And I'm only bringing it up because something told me just now, I think your spirit saying just now, for those of you who are doing not blackberries, who are doing simmer pots over the weekend, especially if a simmer pot is a part of any kind of the cleansing or healing that you're doing for the lunar eclipse, put some blackberries in it if you can, okay? I'm not gonna cry. I love this spread for you too. I'm glad that we did this. So Adelaida, in position one, which is the authentic self, what part of yourself are you being called to embrace more fully? You are deeply intuitive, and the way that your intuition works is through flashes of wisdom. Like you get, we would call it claircognizant, right? Where you just have wisdom or download or information that you just know, and you know it in a way where it's like in your bones. And you sometimes don't even know how you know those things, right? But that is a huge part of your authentic self. You carry a natural sense of knowing. And people trust that in you, right? Even if you may not see it all the time or know that you have that, other people see it in you and they trust that in you, right? So that is a huge part of what your spirits want you to really embrace more fully, okay? In the position of the offering, which is the thing that you have within you that can be put into service for other people, we have the 10 of Wands, and I love this for you. We have the 10 of Wands. You have a great amount of capacity. You are good at carrying a lot of people's emotions. You can hold space for people in a really particular way, right? Now, a part of your own personal wisdom and journey is to learn discernment around that, because sometimes you can carry a little bit too much, but holding space for people is a gift. I think we take it for granted because we see it as a gift that is inherently feminine, and we don't fully nurture or value a lot of the divinely and inherently feminine ways of showing up in the world, in this society, right? But your capacity to just literally hold space for people and hold space for multiple people at the same time is a blessing. What do I mean by holding space for multiple people at the same time? If somebody's in conflict in your community, you can understand both sides of the conflict without picking a side or even making the other person feel bad or isolated. That's not a small thing. That's not a small thing. That is a gift. It's again, going back to this Ace of Swords, it's a spiritual gift, right? So this is something that you can use more for the service of others. In the position of the legacy, what do you have the potential to leave behind that continues beyond you? Your creativity, your spark and inspiration, your big, big imagination. Again, there are ways that you see things that is so authentically you. And it's not just that it's authentically you, it inspires other people. It motivates other people. Remembering that the Page of Wands is the child with the big imagination who's learning how to take their big imagination and to root it in reality. It's also the card of the messenger. It's somebody who brings messages to other people about the creative imagination, the passions, the path forward, right? This is how you're going to be remembered. And this is also how you motivate other people, right? So I hope that that was helpful for you, Adelaide. I hope that that reading resonated. Love you all. Love you all. This was a fun live. Thank you for letting me talk for an hour about Dolly Parton, aka Barbie. Yeah, I think that whenever we lose an elder, and we don't lose them again because they become community ancestors, but whenever somebody who has this kind of big impact over community, starts to become, makes the transition to become an ancestor, I think it's a time for us to tap in with ourselves and think about the patterns we have, because patterns make a person, and how that impacts legacy and how we're going to be remembered. So I hope that the conversation that we had tonight really, really helped you all with that. For those of you who signed up for the Next Chapter workshop, I will see you Sunday afternoon. I'm excited. I'm excited about the conversations and the breakthrough that we're going to have. For those of you who won't be at the Next Chapter workshop, I hope you'll at least be around that evening. I will be back Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. as I'm always here, like I always am, to do the weekly wisdom reading. I may or may not go live tomorrow just to have a little bit more in-depth conversation about the eclipse. I might not. Don't hold me to it. But I definitely do want to encourage people, if you feel like you're not fully prepared for this full moon or this eclipse that's coming in the next few hours, look in my channel and watch the Astro Hour from last week. Because not only do I outline what the energy of the eclipse has in store for us, I also talk about what Mercury in Virgo is here to teach us, okay? Love you all. And until Sunday, I want you all to take care of yourselves. I'll see y'all in a couple of days. Bye. Bye.